I'm Judy Zelina. This is the Millcreek Government Channel. 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, the American Red Cross of Northwestern Pennsylvania helps people to prepare for, respond to, and recover from disasters big and small. And each day, thousands of people just like you, provide compassionate care to those in need. They roll up their sleeves and they donate time, money, and blood. They learn or teach life-saving skills so our communities can be better prepared when the need arises. We're pleased to have Pam Macy, the Executive Director of American Cross of Northwest Pennsylvania, and Jeffrey Domowitz, the Disaster Program Specialist, joining us on the program today. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Thanks.
As we were talking, you guys are always busy. There's never a slow time with the Red Cross.
That is correct.
So thank you for being on the show today. There's a lot of things that we want to talk about. First off, though, Pam, can you sort of like give an overview of who is the American Red Cross?
We are the American Red Cross of Northwestern Pennsylvania
so
here.
So we are a designated area.
Right.
Okay.
We have 8 counties in Northwestern Pennsylvania, including Erie. Erie is our largest county and our headquarters. We have 2 other offices in our outlying areas in Warren and Bradford, Pennsylvania. We have 4 local staff people handling those 8 counties, and we have 2 part-time people that sit in the outlying areas that help us out in some of those areas, such as fundraising and volunteer recruitment.
I know you guys were big, but I guess I just didn't realize you were that big.
Yeah, it's gotten larger through the years, our territory.
And your mission. What is your mission? How does that stay the same?
It's very simple, but I think it's fairly profound. It's to alleviate human suffering in the face of disaster through mobilizing the power of volunteers and the generosity of donors. So what we are is the convener of, we're training volunteers, we're accumulating partnerships that come out in the times of need, we're raising funds so that we have it when we need to spend it, we're doing public awareness, but we have the human resources, the financial resources, and the partnership resources that we need day in and day out so that when disaster strikes, we're more prepared for that.
Well, that's kind of what I want to talk about is your different lines of services. There are so many things that you guys do. I mean, there's education, there is hands-on action. But what I want to start with one of the lines of service is disaster.
So our disaster department is basically made up of volunteers. 96% of everything that we do within that department is done by volunteers. And we cover everything from a home fire to a national earthquake or a hurricane. So everything in between that. And we operate 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. A call comes in and we are mobilized and we are out working with those clients, providing them the things that they need to make them safe. And then we work with those clients over a period of time to get them to a point back in their lives to where it was before this disaster happened. So like I said, if it's a home fire, we're out there at 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, along with the fire department, making sure that those clients have a safe place to stay, that they're not going to be left standing on the street when we're done. They've got food, they've got clothing, they've got someplace safe to stay. The next couple of days, our caseworkers are then calling them, working with other partnering agencies, trying to get them rehomed.
Okay, for instance, a home fire. And I see in the news that the Red Cross is working with them. Who usually calls you? Is it the fire department that'll call you?
So we work with a combination of the fire departments. They're our eyes and ears. A lot of times they're the ones that are going to advocate for that client right there and then. Sometimes we're picking it up on social media. Sometimes a friend of the family, the victims are calling, or sometimes it's the client themselves. Nobody's called on their behalf. They didn't think that they needed us right away, but now it's a couple hours later and the awareness is now settling in and they're like, oh, I really do need help. So it comes from a variety of different sources.
All right, what about, I'm just throwing scenarios out at you here. Okay, what about an example, hurricane in the Carolinas? And I'll see on the media that some of our local people are going down there to help.
Correct.
How does that happen?
So all disasters start what we call local. So it's a local event. When the local volunteers get to a point, we can't handle it anymore. we will escalate that up. So it becomes maybe the entire chapter, then it may become our entire region, then it may be our entire division. So when a large-scale event, nationwide disaster occurs, those local entities are dealing with it first, preparing, getting things on the ground. We know that a hurricane's coming. We have time to mobilize resources into the area. Then we look at the manpower. Once that event happens and it's safe for volunteers to come in, we know what the work needs are.
Okay.
Okay. We have X number of shelters. We know we need to feed thousands of people. We know what that is. A call goes out through our organization to every volunteer in the United States that this is what's going on, and if you are available to deploy for a 2-week period in this particular job, and our volunteers are trained for particular jobs and duties just like anybody else is. They volunteer to go, and we will send them down and they will help in those situations.
Okay, that's how that happens. I really just didn't understand the dynamics of it. I think it's marvelous that they're giving up their time 2 weeks away from their family. My gosh.
I mean, and at a drop of a hat.
You guys
because
are awesome.
We're calling them and we're saying, can you leave and be there in 24 hours?
Wow.
To be able to drop your life, put your life on hold, to be gone for 2 weeks. This is amazing that these folks can do this.
That is amazing.
And so many thrive on it. It's really what they live for, so many of our people. Yeah.
It's wonderful. I mean, it is wonderful. I think it's awesome that someone would be able to do that. Another lines of service I wanted to talk about, service to the armed forces.
We were probably started with Clara Barton on the battlefields.
Yes.
So it doesn't seem as in the news as our disaster services are, but we are helping our military families pre-deployment, while they're in the service, and then when they become veterans. So we have all the stages of support system, but what we're best known for in military services is emergency communication. So that happens here in Erie potentially 300 times a year. So
what is that?
It's when we go to a pre-deployment or we reach out to families when they are deploying a military family member, and we tell them if something happens at home in your community that, say for example, a grandmother is sick, a child is sick, someone is required to have surgery, the good news is if a baby is being born, if you need that information to get to the serviceman who is either serving on a military base across this country or abroad, we are the agency that is mandated to get that message through.
Oh, okay.
And even though there's other communication techniques, the government depends on us to put that message through, and what we do is verify that message. So we will call, and within 24 hours we make sure that it is a family emergency, and we verify that, and we get the information to the commanding officer. And then that officer makes that decision whether the person can leave their deployment and take a break and come home and be with their families. And the purpose is, families need that strength of being together in a disaster. So
right.
The resiliency of their moving past this means being together. So the military finds that important, and we're very happy to partner with them to make that call and bring people home. Other services, we do pre-deployment meetings so that people understand what our services are. We have lending services, there's some grant programs, and we also do some things at the VA. We'll do a Valentine's event, bingo, gift cards, and things like that, just to brighten the lives of people. So it's a very heartwarming service. And I would have to say that even with disaster, more people come to me and say, you brought me home, you brought my brother home, you brought our family together. So it's very heartwarming to me to hear those stories, because it seems like the community at large does not know those stories.
I know, they don't.
Yeah.
They don't, and I guess I didn't realize that you do that.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but if it's an emergency or at home, it would be up to the commanding officer if that individual would be able to come back home for it.
Right, and some circumstances around.
Some circumstances would.
Yeah, if it's an immediate family,
yes.
Of course, it's always open to happen. If it's a friend, sometimes there, or a distant relative, there needs to be more documentation about that, because, obviously their commitment to the service is an important one. So, but in most cases, we're not responsible for whether they come home, just making that happen.
Right.
And then any additional services they need once they're being home. If they need, transportation assistance and or family assistance with whether it's a funeral or something like that, we can provide referrals for that and services that come into under that line.
Okay, what about blood donations and so forth? Tell me about that.
We are the #1 provider of blood services in the United States. So we are constantly doing blood drives everywhere.
Okay.
Right now we are in a critical need for blood because of all the disasters that happened over the past, in 2018. A lot of those blood drives were canceled. And so when somebody donates blood to the American Red Cross, it goes wherever it's needed. So in those areas where they didn't have a local blood bank or they weren't able to do drives, we are now using our resources for that to supplement those places where our shortages. So blood drives are happening constantly throughout our areas, throughout our regions, throughout the entire United States. And anybody, can donate. And we encourage folks to donate on a regular basis because that product that you're given does actually save lives.
Yes, it does. Now, do you manage and handle your blood that you have from your blood drives?
No, we don't. Our main blood resource is in Buffalo, New York.
Okay.
There's one in Pennsylvania, but we are right now working with the New York Penn blood region. So our blood goes there and then is transported to everywhere it's needed.
To wherever it's needed,
Right.
wherever a disaster
Like
may
Jeff
be.
said, when blood drives are canceled, other communities have to step up and provide that blood. So there's a shelf life for blood. So we're very proud to say when we take it in, it's shipped to whether it's military hospitals, disaster sites, or just communities in need. But we also then in turn service as a secondary source to our local hospitals in our region. And people can find out where their nearest blood drive is by going to redcross.org, pick the tab Give Blood and put in your local zip code and it'll pull up all the blood drives that are coming up in that month.
Okay. What is involved in international lines of services?
Well, a lot of them are done outside of our chapter area, which include, the biggest one is the Safe and Well. We search for people who are in another country. Say something happened in Haiti and a local person has a relative that was there. And after the earthquake, they couldn't find them.
Oh, okay.
So we do grassroots efforts. We go to shelters. We take the information around looking for their relative. So, I've been involved in only a couple of those through the years I've been there. But, we ask all the personal information, and they go out looking for them. Now, if it's a shelter and we have all the records of who's in the shelter, it's a lot easier to find. But it can also happen through civil unrest. Maybe you separated from your brother when there was a war in Germany or some type of a thing that you had to evacuate your country. So that we find and bring relatives together that way. We have things like programs in third world countries or Africa that measles vaccinations, preparedness, resiliency trainings, all those things to try to make those people safe with hand washings, and all the trainings that we might have in the United States isn't as readily available in places like that.
So you go in there and you help provide that education.
Right, right. And then also we do have some international refugee programs here in Erie. So any refugee that would want information on what we provide locally, they can give our office here in Erie a call and we can let them know about, we do verifications that they were in concentration camps, and in most cases if we can find their record, the compensation comes from their country of origin that can help them out today for their time spent in a concentration camp.
Well, you guys just do it all. And there are days you feel it.
Yes.
You guys really do. And we were talking how busy you are, and it's not just really one set period of time in a year. It goes on all year. You've got hurricane season, then you've got tornadoes, then you have fires, a lot of fires we were talking about in the winter. So it just doesn't end for you guys.
No. And when we're not busy as far as disasters, we're busy in other ways with these lines of service, but also with education. We have several educational programs where we work with schools. We have one that's for kindergarten through grade 2. It's called Prepare with Pedro, and we're teaching these younger children what they need to do if a smoke alarm goes off. They need to evacuate the home. How do they get out of the home? Where do they meet? So we're teaching that fire safety and that fire education. We have another program that is designed for those grades 3, 4, and 5, which is called the Pillowcase Project. And this actually was as a result of one of our national disasters. When Hurricane Katrina hit, the University of Loyal students evacuated their campus, and they carried all their valuables in a pillowcase. And so we sort of looked at that and said, this is a really great emergency preparedness kit. Everybody has a pillowcase. So we designed a program around that, and we teach kids how to be prepared for different natural disasters. We have adult programs such as our CPR, our first aid, programs out there on the opioid epidemic that are going on. We have tons of training programs. We have the adult version of our educational programs, which is called Be Red Cross Ready, where we go into much more details what should be in your kits and how big your kit should be and how long you need to be able to provide for your own safety if something does happen.
And I think these are things that the average person, that's why you need to get the education out. The average person takes it for granted. No, really, you just don't think, oh, it's not going to happen to me until your power's out and it's sub-zero temperatures and it's been over 10 hours.
Yeah.
Then you got to start thinking some different lines here. But it's true. I don't think the average person really does, isn't prepared. So that's why you really, I love having you on the program, and we really need to stress how important these things are.
Personal preparedness, whether it's your family or you as an individual, is basically what you really do need to do. In most situations, you need to be able to take care of yourself for the first 48 hours. It's going to be that long. It can be that long before shelters are set up, before the government is in place. Our emergency management, agencies can get everything lined up. It can be as long as 48 hours, depending on. If we have a severe snowstorm that's going on for days, like we did last year, you can't get to places. The roads just aren't there. So you need to be able to be prepared. And I think because we live in a fairly safe region of the country, sometimes we become complacent that this isn't going to happen to us. We don't see these things, so I don't really need to worry about this. But in fact, we really never know what's going to happen.
We don't. We remember in 2018, last year, the tornado that went right down, Stertanian, West 26th Street, and boy, were we lucky. I mean, people were counting their blessings that it was just trees and debris and stuff like that. But so we just don't know what's going to happen.
And being prepared.
As I said, you guys do a lot. How are you funded? Deep breath.
Some people feel that we're funded by the government because we work with the government. We're mandated by the government to provide our services, but we are really solely funded from the generosity of a community. So we do some special event fundraising that raises money. We do grants. We work with the local United Ways. But really, the mainstay of our funding comes from individuals and companies in our communities. So we rely on them, and having that resource, like we talked about ahead of time, having the financial stability to be able to run out there and buy the equipment and have the trainings and do the volunteer engagement piece and the partners. It's important to have the funding prior to the disaster. Although when we do have the disaster, we do go on, and say, there's an urgent need for fundraising, but it's actually ongoing.
And I think people need to know that too, because they just don't need any money. The government pays for everything. No, they do not.
And we're called maybe an episodic fundraising organization, where when we're in the news, we do appeal to the public because of their empathy for what's going on.
For that situation, yes.
But if it's not in the news, people aren't aware of the families, that the day-to-day. Jeff was out last evening with a family of 4 3 children that have lost everything, and parents that don't know what to do next. So it's going on whether you hear about it in the news or not, in all of our communities.
Volunteers, you mentioned volunteers. There is certainly a need for volunteers in your organization. How can someone volunteer, and what volunteer different aspects for a volunteer do you have available?
Do you want to go with, start with disaster maybe?
There's volunteer opportunity everywhere within our organization.
I know.
As you said, there's so many different lines of service. We are
Let's take
constantly
a question with it and an answer
and
like
so
this.
the easiest way for folks to volunteer is simply to visit our website, which is redcross.org. There is a section right up there, a tab that says volunteering, and you click on that tab, you complete a one-page application that puts you into our system, and then our volunteer services department will work you through the next couple of processes, the steps to get your clearances and everything, and then have you come on board. There's probably 300 different jobs that you can do within the Red Cross as a volunteer. So we really do take a time to talk with our potential volunteers and our volunteers to determine what is that good fit. What do you like to do? What are your skills? What do you want to do? How do you want to help? And then we try to just match you up with what our needs are and what you want to do.
Okay, so bottom line is there's something for everybody.
Always.
Right.
Always.
Some are more pertinent and more needed, immediately than others, but your skills will fit some position that we have, and we have so much training. So
That's
if
what
there's
I was
something
going to ask. For
Yeah.
some of the positions, is there training involved?
by all means.
By all means. I mean, obviously, we can't send somebody into a national disaster, into a hurricane situation, and work in a shelter if they've not been trained on how to do that or how to mass feed thousands of people. So there is some training, that is. And the training is all free, and majority of it is done at the individual's convenience.
Okay.
Some of it is available online. And so the individual can actually train at home. We also have classroom settings, so it's a combination depending upon what is best for that individual.
As a volunteer, is there a set time commitment that you ask of the volunteers? Or is it just situation by situation?
I think position by
Because I mean,
position,
some people have
situation.
volunteers and say, "Oh, we ask for at least 10 hours a week."
Right,
or
and
something
we're
like
not
that.
all that. I mean, so we basically will, we'll take what you can give us. If you can give us an hour a week, then we can use you in that capacity. If you can just only do something now and then, some of our volunteers are episodic volunteers. So when something does happen,
Right.
there is an event, that's when they're able to volunteer.
Okay.
So it really depends.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if somebody just has some questions and wants to talk to somebody about it, because we can cater a position towards somebody's skill level.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
if somebody has, if they're really good with financial forms, documents, and kind of Excel sheets or something, we would find something that best suits their needs. So when in doubt, if they don't see it online, give us a call and talk to us about it. We can probably fit their skills
Probably.
into one of our local positions and adapt to their time schedule, whether they want to do the work at home. We have a lot of people that work from the Bradford office, but yet are doing casework for Jeff's local families and families across our community. So I think if you're sitting on the fence, give us a call and talk to us about it, and we can find the thing that's right for you.
How else can we support your mission other than volunteering?
Well, we talked about giving blood. That's something that nowhere near the percentage of the public actually gives blood that is capable of doing it. And you save 3 lives from one blood donation. And we have them, multiple sites per month. So that's a great way to save lives and be a part of it. Hosting a blood drive.
Okay.
Their company, if they have people that they can just let have 45 minutes off during their day, we can host a blood drive at your location. We have a blood mobile, or they can actually host it at our office locally. Those are great ways.
The last way I would say was be an advocate for us. We've now talked about what we do as an organization, so help spread that word. Talk to your family and your friends, your neighbors about, and if you know somebody that's had a fire or is in need of help, give us a call or give that information to that individual so they can reach out and see if we can be of assistance.
Well, you guys do a great job, and I want to thank you for everything that you do. You always surprise me with something. Every time you come on the show, it's like, I didn't know you did this, and I thought I knew it all, but we don't. We just don't know everything that they do. If you have any questions, visit the website.
Yeah. Website, or call our local office here in Erie, and we'd be happy to talk you through. Be a part of the solution to people, across the communities. It just takes everybody's little piece, putting it together to do, to make great things happen in our communities.
And you're a great team to be a part of. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Judy.
Viewers, again, check out their website, give them a call. So thank you so much for tuning into the Millcreek Government Channel, and until next time, have a wonderful day.